great-grandfather, and I've been meaning to give you a recording and tell you a story for a long time, and finally I'm getting around to it. This is October the 25th, 1993, and great-grandmother says that you're almost 2 years old. So you'll probably, maybe, hopefully, like to hear this my little story to you. And I told this story to your mother and your aunts, which were my kids, and it goes something like this. Once upon a time, a long time ago, there was a big Indian, and his name was Big Bear. And he was a good Indian, though. Everybody liked him. And he had a little boy, and his name was Little Boy Bear. And he had a little girl, and her name was Little Girl Bear. And then their mommy, which was his wife, was called Mama Bear. And they lived in a great big tent, because, you know, Big Bear was so big that when he laid in the tent, he had to put his feet outside. But he would like to take the kids, you know, Little Boy Bear and Little Girl Bear with him when he went on trips. So one time, he decided to go way off into the woods, and he was going to ride his horse. And his horse was named Thunder, a great big horse, pretty horse. And Little Boy Bear had a horse, and his name was Lightning. But Little Girl Bear didn't have a horse, and she was sad, and she wanted to go along with them. So Big Bear says, maybe I can take care of that. So he found a real big deer, and it was real pretty. And he says, Little Girl Bear, you can ride the deer. And Little Girl Bear says, well, I don't have a saddle. And so she started to cry. And Big Bear says, oh, I'll make you a saddle. So he worked all night. He made a real pretty saddle. And then they didn't know what to call the deer. So they got to thinking about it, and they said, well, we'll just call it Angel Deer. So you see, Big Bear had his horse, and it was named Thunder. Little Boy Bear had his horse, and it was named Lightning. And Little Girl Bear had her horse, and it was named Angel Deer. So one morning, real early, they got all the saddles on their horses and the saddle on the deer, and they told Mama Bear goodbye, and they rode off into the woods. And they rode a long, long time, and pretty soon they got tired, so they decided to stop and rest. So there was a great big tree, and so they laid under the tree, and they went to sleep. Well, now they didn't know it, but up in that tree was a big black bear, and he was eating pecans. And so he would rustle around catching pecans or eating them, but then he dropped some, and a couple of the pecans dropped on old Big Bear. And Big Bear shook his head, and he woke up, and he saw that bear up in that tree. So he says, well, he woke me up. Now I'm mad at him, so I guess I'll just shake that tree. So Big Bear got a hold of the tree, and he shook it, and the pecans kept falling down, and pretty soon the old bear come down, bang, he hit the ground and ran off into the woods. And so then Little Boy Bear and Little Girl Bear and Big Bear, they picked up all the pecans. They got them all together, and they took them home, and they all cracked pecans, and they ate pecans, and they fixed them, and Mama Bear made a pecan pie, and they had pecan candy, and it was so good. But then they got all sleepy again. So they decided to go to bed. And they all went to bed, and they had the best dreams you ever could hear, or think, or know, whatever it was. Anyway, they were real good dreams, and that was the end of the story. So long, Katie. All right, Katie, here's another story for you about, about Big Bear and Little Boy Bear and Little Girl Bear and Mama Bear. Well, one morning real early, Big Bear says, I think I'll go up on that big, tall mountain. And he says, Little Boy Bear, Little Girl Bear, you can go along. So, I told you that they all had something to ride on. Big Bear had that great big horse he called Thunder. And Little Boy Bear had Lightning. And Little Girl Bear had Angel Deer, which was a deer, but Angel Deer just loved Little Girl Bear, and she could ride him good. So they all got ready to climbed up on top of their horses and Angel Deer, and Mama Bear says, okay, go. They all took off. And you should have seen that Big Bear's horse Thunder. He took off, cloppity, 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 clop. And Little Boy Bear's Lightning flashed out across there as quick as he could go. But Angel Deer just scooched right by him so fast, and they all had to slow down because they were going so fast. So they went for a long ways, and they finally got to the big, tall mountain. And they started climbing up the mountain, higher and higher and higher. And finally they got up to the very top, up where the clouds were, and they thought, oh, isn't this pretty? They could look way down, and they could see where their big old teepee was, where Mama Bear was, but it was way far away. They could barely see her. And while they were standing, they heard a flapping noise, and they looked up, and there was a flying horse, a beautiful white flying horse. And so they thought, well, maybe the flying horse will be afraid of us. So they hid back behind some boulders, and they watched the flying horse come down, and it lit. And Big Bear says, now we all have to be very, very quiet, because it's probably real shy and maybe scared of us. So they stood back there and watched the flying. And the flying horse was kind of nice, and it just kind of walked